guys, so today we're going to be talking about hair, and this is kind of a mini tutorial, I guess. Sort of, I guess, more of how I approach drawing hair. And the first step, as you can see on this page, like, is to draw the entire head. Draw like a bald person. And that's because, the shape of the head under the hair is going to really influence like where the hair is growing from, how the hair sits, sort of how it falls, and it'll help make it feel more real, like it's actually attached to the head. And we'll talk a bit more about that later. But the first step with anything I do with sketching is to really start rough and light and kind of refine with layers as I go. So I first start by blocking out like the general shape of the hair overall with really light strokes, as you just saw. And this kind of gives you an idea of how the shapes of the hair play with the rest of the drawing, like what silhouettes you're creating, how the hair moves with your character. And it's important when you're doing this to remember that the hair doesn't exist in the vacuum. It kind of like interacts with the body and it flows around the body and with the body. And this step really helps you kind of visualize that before you get too caught up in the details. And I know it's kind of hard to like resist the urge to get really detailed and like go into individual strands and everything. Just like, don't overthink it. Capture the overall shape you want the hair to have in your drawing, and we can get to the details later. If you're the kind of person who has like a really hard time either sketching lightly, or you're the kind of person who gets caught up in the detail, try holding your pencil further back during the early stages of your drawing. It kind of makes it so you can't actually put that much pressure down and you can't get super precise as you're drawing. And it helps me. I used to be like a chronic like grinding my pencil down into the paper while I was drawing kind of person. But like in the early stages, you saw like I erase a bunch. I sort of work and rework the style until I figure out what it's going to look like, and light strokes are going to be so much easier to erase with. But anyway, after I have kind of an initial shape and silhouette and hairstyle I'm happy with, I go in and refine like bit by bit. And one thing that I think is important to keep in mind at this stage is that hair is sort of, I like to think of it as almost a sheet draping over like a three-dimensional object. And this is totally something I did not understand when I first started drawing. And when you think about it this way, you can see like the hair has depth and dimension. And the front pieces of the hair around the face are a lot closer than the back pieces that you can see around the neck. And you can use like shading to show this depth, or if you have a short hairstyle, the kind of shape of the back line of the hair that you can see behind the neck can also kind of show that depth and dimension. I mean, I guess it does kind of depend on the texture of the hair, like not all hair drapes, but for today, I didn't go into like super curly hair because I wanted to kind of keep it simple. But if you guys want a curly hair tutorial, let me know. It's honestly like one of my favorite hair textures to draw, so I think it would be really fun. But anyway, so as I start refining details, I like to kind of separate the hair into chunks, for lack of a better word. Even if you do have a more detailed stylistic approach to drawing hair, it definitely helps to first break it into kind of chunks or clumps. Because, if you look in a mirror and you look at your own hair, you'll notice that it kind of naturally groups together a little bit. So think about how you can break the hairstyle that you've roughed out into like bigger chunks or shapes. And then we'll add in like more details and individual strands later if you want to. And I also just want to say that even if you're not the kind of person who likes drawing out like a full strand of hair, and what I mean by that, like drawing a line from the roots all the way to the tip of the hair, even if you're not into drawing that all out and you have a more simplified approach, kind of like me, it does help, at least at this stage, to lightly sketch like where each hair clump is growing out of the head. And this is a mistake I used to make all the time, and it kind of made the hairstyles that I drew feel stiff and unnatural, like kind of like it was a helmet, like a hair helmet that my characters were wearing. And once I started sort of thinking about, okay, where is this actually attaching to the root, to the head? Like, where is the root of this hair? Once I started applying that, like, it just started feeling a lot more natural. Um, yeah, so like I said, for me, I like to keep it simple. I don't draw out all the strands, and that's just a stylistic choice for me. I actually take a lot of inspiration from Alphonse Mucha, and the way he illustrates hair has like seriously inspired my work. But in my head, even though I'm not drawing it, I know where that hair strand is coming from. And that's how you create that kind of natural feel, like it's really hair and not just this solid object on their head. You know what I mean? Um, so another thing to keep in mind, and this is another mistake I used to make all the time, but as you're laying out these sort of chunks of hair, um, remember that hair closer to you will overlap hair that's further away. I used to have a piece of hair that should have been in the back of the head, overlapping a piece of hair that should have been in the front, and it just kind of messes with the perspective and looks confusing. So just keep in mind, the closer the hair is, it'll overlap hair that's further away. So once I've broken the hair down into those kind of chunks or clumps, that's when I start adding in the details. And for me, like, hair has never been something that's really natural for me to draw. Um, so going in with details too soon definitely overwhelmed me personally. Some people love drawing hair and that's cool, but for me it's always been a struggle. And when I'm doing this, I like to keep in mind sort of that hair is it's kind of like a free-flowing sort of organic thing. It doesn't lay in flat sheets, despite what all of those hair care commercials will have you believe. It's not usually perfectly tame. Like, hair twists around itself, it separates, it gets piecey, you get flyaways. It's not perfectly symmetrical on both sides. It blows in the breeze, it hangs in our face, it falls out of buns. And honestly, these are all reasons I cut my hair off. But anyway, just kind of allow the shapes and lines that you create to be more organic, and allow the hair to twist around itself. Don't feel like you need to have the bangs of the character you're drawing perfectly exactly symmetrical on both sides. Don't feel like it has to be symmetrical, because it doesn't. And in real life, hair doesn't actually fall that way. So just keep it loose and don't be afraid. Like, sometimes if you're drawing a line and you just kind of go way off course, it ends up being a happy accident and it looks like way better and more organic when you're drawing hair. So I hope that this video has been helpful, at least a little bit, for you guys in terms of like drawing hair and figuring it all out. I know it wasn't necessarily like a step-by-step tutorial. Personally, I don't really find those kind of tutorials super helpful, where they're like, first do this, then do this, then on and on and on, because all artists have like different styles, and for me to literally give you a step-by-step tutorial for drawing hair, I feel like that would kind of not allow you to adapt it to your own style. And I think that's something that's really important as an artist, sort of like understand the concept of how something works and then take it and use the ideas and draw how you like to draw, you know what I mean? And then I just want to say that don't be afraid to erase and don't be afraid to rework. You'll see here, like, I'm erasing all the time. Like, I actually had to cut out a lot of the erasing because this video would be way too heckin' long if I didn't. Like, I erase so much, especially when I draw hair, because it's something I do find quite difficult. So don't be afraid to rework the hairstyles as you go and as they kind of form. If you're starting from a rough sketch and getting more detailed, they'll kind of like form as you go, and you'll get a better idea of what you want it to look like and where the details are going to be the more details you add in. I don't know if that makes sense, but I also want to say that, like, everything in art, it takes a lot of observation and practice, and it has literally taken me years of practice to get where I am in terms of like drawing hair. And honestly, like, I feel like I still have so much to learn when it comes to drawing hair, which is honestly one of the reasons why I kept putting off this video for so long. So yeah, just practice as much as you can. You know, I always say drawing from reference is super helpful. You know, doing stylistic drawings from photo references you find on Pinterest, it's super helpful to understand sort of how hair works and how hair falls and how hair flows and all of that. And just, if it's something you are struggling with, don't give up. Keep going. The more you practice it, the more comfortable it's going to be for you. And you will find a style you like. If stylistically you're having a hard time finding a style you like drawing hair, you will find something you like, but it does just take a lot of practice. Practice is like the number one thing that has helped me develop a style that I like. And not just practicing the same thing, but trying new things. So, you know, trying something outside of your box in terms of a hairstyle or in terms of how you draw a hair or the level of detail you add in, that is going to really help you find sort of your style, your unique stylistic approach to drawing hair. So I'm rooting for you guys. You guys got it. But anyway, I hope you guys like this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!